logic with a twist of jest. Strip it down to truth, yeah, forget the rest. Human blood pulls the lies right out of the park. Look beyond the shadows that set the dark. Sparks of laughter fire up the night, bringing clarity when they blur the fight. Cut through the chaos, yeah, the tangled lies. Steampunk Kelly with the sand clear eyes. Truths and jokes gonna rock this show. Step into light where the real facts glow.
All right. Hello and welcome to the Punch Show. Hope you guys are doing well. Happy Friday to you. Fridays are always a nice day of the week, and I did it. I'm back. I did a whole week. Good to be back. Good to be here. And Harry's back too. How you doing, Harry? We lost last night. Well, for you, it would have been this morning, I guess. America lost. We lost to Turkey. I made a joke about how we eat turkey on Thanksgiving, and so I feel like it was my fault. But we are into the next round. We're number 1 seed. Got a chance to go into the next round after that. Got a chance. This could be the best American team ever. On paper, it might be, from what I understand. I am not a big soccer guy, so I'm still learning. I still don't know how. I don't know what offsides means in soccer, but apparently it means something, and it cost us a goal last night. But that's all right. I mean, I don't expect anything, so getting anything is good. So let's go over a few things. One, I don't know if Harry, if you've heard this, there is audio tape where RFK Jr. is trying to encourage a third-party candidate to drop out of a race to make it easier for the Republican to win. And since he is an official, that is actually technically illegal. He is, it's a violation of the Hatch Act, and there may be some other acts that it's a violation of too. But if it were a Democrat that did it, it would probably be the only thing anybody's talking about today. But since it's somebody in the Trump administration, and it just adds to the multiple layers of corruption that is with this administration every day, it's not a big thing. Meanwhile, Todd Blanche looks like he's, proceeding to be the next attorney general, even though a judge told him that he was breaking the law by not following the Epstein Act. Then there was another guy that was way up there in Homeland Security that resigned today because he said he was transported or teleported or something to Waffle House 40 miles away. So you're gonna laugh at me about the turkey. That's all right. That's all right. We'll get over it. Okay, so offside is when an attacking player is behind the defender furthest back, and from that position interferes in the game. What isn't it? So it doesn't have to be the person that's doing the scoring. Happy Friday, pun. Love your show. Thank you, Dare. I appreciate the positive reinforcement. So, um, for some reason, like Twitter doesn't respond as much as YouTube does. So it's always nice when I get a YouTube response. That's called backlicking out, or that's called blacking out. But the teleport study was pretty. Yeah, that's what I was wondering is like, how much did you drink before you teleported to Waffle House? I know plenty of people that get drunk and go to a place like Waffle House. I mean, Waffle House is classic drunk food. Well, I don't have a problem with Waffle House. I think Waffle House, only been there a couple of times, but they make pretty decent food. I mean, as long as you don't care about your health. But it tastes good. And it's filling. Whoa. So on the news right now, somebody tried to swat Pete Buttigieg and called Child Protective Services on him for some reason. And this is like, remember somebody swatted MTG and right-wing news went all around, all ballistic about the hateful left and everything? They probably won't say boo about this. Because it happened to a Democrat, so it's okay. And gay people shouldn't have children anyway or something. And that's what they're going to say. I'm not saying I agree with that. I'm just saying that's going to be their justification. So anyway, sorry, just happened to have sometimes I have the news on mute while I'm doing the show just in case anything interesting happens while the show is going on. But that is kind of interesting. I don't know. I doubt Fox News is going to run the show or run the story the way they would if it were a Republican. No, any attacking player can be offside. No, being offside isn't in itself an offense. Only if they interfere with the game is it an offense. Okay, yeah, that's where I'm going to get lost. I'll take your word for it. It sounded like the guy was really offside last. So, in American football, offside has a completely different meaning. It means you jump over the line of scrimmage. A defender jumps over the line of scrimmage before the ball is snapped. The line of scrimmage is the line the ball is on. New is driving everyone crazy, including me. New? What do you mean new? Hey, Dusty, but I don't understand what you mean by new is driving. I think maybe there was a speech to text or something, and I'm not. So anyway, I just like you look at the, drunken transport guy. You look at RFK Jr. trying to rig elections. You've got, and then there's like all kinds of stuff about vaccines are going down. People are getting the flu. RFK Jr. told DHS to not run vaccine advertising, and you got Pete Buttigieg doing war crimes. You got Todd Blanche becoming Donald Trump's enforcer. You got Susan Collins saying, "Oh well, he told me he wasn't gonna bring back the payment fund, so I guess I'm okay with that." And that's why you gotta, I don't care about what Plattner did 20 years ago. I care about what Susan Collins is going to do next year when you have Thomas and Alito resign and you get fascist are appointed in their place, and Susan Collins, well, they told me they weren't going to make being a Democrat illegal. I'm very disappointed. So anyway, I just the entrenched corruption of not just Donald Trump, the entire administration, and then the just complacency of the Republican Senate to just go along with it. And I just want, like, this should not be one of those, this is not a both sides do it type thing. There's no liberal equivalent of what the conservatives are doing right now. I'm not saying that the Democrats are perfect, and I've used this story before. One time I went to HEB and I bought a bunch of groceries, and I got home and I realized I forgot to pay for a carton of milk. And I thought, should I go back and just pay for this carton of milk? And then I said, you know, I just don't feel like it. HEB can afford the loss of $2. And I never went back. And I actually kind of felt guilty a little bit, but not guilty enough to go back. That doesn't mean I can't say bank robbery is wrong. Well, you stole and they stole, so who are you to criticize bank robbers? And that's kind of where you get a lot of these whataboutisms. Is it's not just like that whataboutism in and of itself is wrong. Like murderers can say murder is wrong and be right. You know, the fact that they are also murderers doesn't mean that murder isn't wrong if they say it is, which is what the whataboutisms are about, right? They're like, well, you were okay when this person did it. And it's like, no, that doesn't change anything. If it's either if Biden was wrong when he did this and Trump did it, then that doesn't make Trump okay to do it. That means they were both wrong. But it's not just that. It's scale. It's likeness. It's, you know, because there's some resemblance. If you cross your eyes and look at it squinty, that doesn't mean that they're the same thing. Nobody has done anything at all like this. Not even close to it. And J.D. Vance accidentally admitted it when he said, you know, can you imagine if what Trump did, you know, happened today? You know, the deep, and he, you know, went on about the deep state got him. Like, what do you mean the deep state got him? He was the deep state. He was the deep state. Anyway, he's admitting that what Trump did is a lot worse than what Nixon did. Only he's just saying it should be okay to do it. And no, I don't think what Nixon did is okay. And no, I don't think what Reagan or what Trump is doing is okay. Anyway, I don't know if you guys heard the comments that J.D. Vance made, but they were just insane. And I just can't get past how are Republicans, like, I'm not talking about the elected Republicans, and I'm not even talking about like the diehard MAGA trolls that, you know, we see on the channel sometimes, which it's actually, I don't know what happened. It seems like they're not, they don't feel like harassing me today. They must have other things to do. I'm not talking about the trolls. I'm just talking about, you know, Fred and Martha that, you know, have a family farm in Iowa. And they just, they barely follow politics. They just vote Republican. They don't really follow what's going on. But how do they justify things like January 6th, where it's kind of hard to avoid, you know? And I was watching some interviews. There was somebody did a thing where they went and looked at MAGAs that had left the MAGA movement. And he wouldn't quite go to the point of saying it was a cult, but there were some elements that were like a cult. And he was actually very strong to say you shouldn't call it a cult. So I don't want to imply that was his thing, but he was saying, but there are some similarities here. And like people, you know, decide to come out against Trump and their friends, their family, just like turn on them. They lose their community. And I wonder if that's part of it. Anyway, I'll go through some comments. These are just kind of my random thoughts. I did not prepare a long show today. I just kind of read some news stuff, so I'm a little bit more. This is a free flow day. It's a Friday, free flow Friday. I think that's what I'm going to call this from now on. I'll do this every Friday. We'll call it Free Flow Friday. I mean, they claim it's a manly sport, but they're all covered in pads, and as soon as they get tackled, they have to pause the game for a 2-minute break. All right, I hear what you're saying. But when a guy is 240 pounds, bench presses 550 pounds, and runs a 4.40, and he's coming at you like a ton of bricks, if you didn't have pads, all your bones would be shattered. And you know, I mean, of course, you could compare it to rugby, but I wouldn't say it's anyway. Those guys are big. When I was in NBA, when I used to write the NBA for the NBA, like when you're watching some of these games on TV, you don't realize how big some of these athletes are. Of course, NBA they're a little bit taller, but man, I interviewed Dwight Howard one time, and he's only 6'10", you know, and I'm sitting there and I'm just interviewing him, and it was hard to like not stare him straight into the belly button. You know, I mean, I'm only 5'7", so he's over a foot taller than me. It is hard, like you don't realize how big people can get. So if you have a guy that's 6'5", 250, I don't know what that translates to in stone, you don't want to get hit without pads. WTF, Apple correct. I swear it just is the word built into autocorrect. Apple is not the meta. Shake my head. At least they are discovering ranch due to the cup. Okay, news. Okay. Oh. So all right, I got Juice says, can you shut all the way up? Yeah, but I choose not to. News. So Dusty was originally saying news is driving everyone crazy. Including me. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, it's just an insane day. The JD Vance thing just blew my mind. Like, this is the vice president of the United States calling one of the most corrupt actions by a sitting president in the history a nothing burger, you know, and blaming it on the deep state. I don't even know how the deep state, whatever that means, are Woodward and Bernstein was the post part of the deep state? What was his own party that was going to impeach him? Were they part of the deep state? Both sides blame each other, and they're both. I think both sides have flaws, but to say that they're both the same, I think that's a lazy comment. I think that is lazy analysis. Nobody's perfect, but not everybody is equally at fault either. That's just lazy. That's like, I know we're wrong, but so are you. Therefore, I'm okay with our side being wrong. Due to pushback in Texas, they are selling the warehouses they were going to imprison Americans in. Yeah, it's like, I live in Texas, and not my direct neighborhood, but like the next neighborhood over, we're close enough that we're in the same next door community. And they were talking about getting one of these warehouses things there, and you would think Texas, you know, you don't get much more Republican than Texas, right? Yeah, they're all for locking up the immigrants, but you know, not in my backyard. Even had people on local news, and they're interviewing them, and they're like, well, you know, I'm all for this, but I don't want that thing in my neighborhood. Put it in somebody else's neighborhood. That, like, the most That is so MAGA. As long as it hurts other people and not me, I'm all for it. I just don't want to have a negative impact on my life. I don't care if other people's lives are destroyed. All right, so what'd they say? That's why I say that the news is. What did he say? Oh, Vance. Okay, so yeah, so Vance. I'm assuming you're talking about Vance. Yeah, he said that Nixon was a victim of the deep state, and that if it happened today, it would just be a 12-hour news cycle. Texas is really becoming like the Donald Trump lick butt state. It might be becoming blue. There is a side of Texas, like, I hope Tallarico wins. I really want Tallarico to win. I really like Tallarico, and it's funny how they're attacking Tallarico because they're going after. They're like keep saying stuff about him and like he's trans. He's not, and it's not like he's it's not like if you were calling Lindsey Graham, like trans, where there's this kind of effeminate qualities to Lindsey Graham. And I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm just saying that as an observation. I don't like people calling him, like, I don't like people misgendering Lindsey Graham and calling him Lady Graham or whatever. I think misgendering people is wrong, and you shouldn't do it ever to anybody, even if they are transphobic. But like James Tallarico does not come across at all like a transgender person. Like there's no transgender vibe to him. And they try to make him seem like he's some sort of extremist. And there's like he doesn't come across as extremist. He's like an actual person. And so it's like the only way you could believe all this stuff about him is if you don't engage at all. Like I imagine there's some people that are, but any voter that watches the debates is going to be like, what? And it's like, meanwhile, Ken Paxton is his wife has literally endorsed Tallarico, because Paxton cheated on her, and then the people that used to work with him in the Attorney General's office are the ones that turned him into the Department of Justice. His own party is the ones that impeached him. Like when your own family, your own party, your own friends, your own coworkers are the ones that say you're corrupt and that you shouldn't, nobody should vote for you. Maybe those people should be listened to. Like, if somebody's wife endorses them, I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, well that does it. His wife says I should vote for him. Like that's that's expected, right? But when somebody's wife endorses the opponent, that gets my attention. And his wife is a Republican politician too. They are kids in that brain that know if you, oh, hey, Brett. They are kids in the brain that know if you lie enough and make it seem trivial enough, people give up. Yep. It happened with January 6th. You talk to people about you talk to MAGA about January 6th, and they're like, oh, did you see the video where they're just like, they're open up the doors and let them in? You mean the video from 4 hours into it after they had already beaten the living crap out of 150 officers? One lost an eye. One was literally beaten back to death, and then one was beaten to death and then back to life. They beat him so bad he died and came back from the dead. And that's peaceful protesting? And then they're just like, oh, well, it's just peace. And then they're like, what about BLM? They refuse to engage with reality. But in Texas, they are putting up extremely mediocre Democratic candidates. Nah, Talarico is a fantastic candidate. I'm sorry. I actually was I've been following Talarico for like 2.5 years now. I was wanting Talarico to run. I'm on record saying I hope this guy runs long before, like a year before he announced he's running. Now, I love Talarico. Talarico is a fantastic candidate. Talarico might be president someday. Ruby, it is 10 times better sport. Rugby is a 10 times better sport. They don't need pads. They don't need 2 minutes breaks. We don't have mid-game commercials. And whenever an NFL player goes against a rugby player, they get their butt kicked. Now, don't compare it to rugby league because that is poop. But if you compare it to rugby union, they would get absolutely hammered. Okay. That is an opinion. I don't agree with it. But you're entitled to it. I think if you put a rugby player in a football game, I don't think that they're going to do that. The only rugby players that translate to the NFL are kickers, which are like our wimpiest players. How do you like that? Talarico is good. He should talk to the base more, though. He does. I mean, I don't know what you mean he should talk to the base more. Sorry. Apple auto corrects keeps ejecting the entire sections of my writing. The most useless UI I have had the displeasure of using. I don't even use autocorrect. I have an idea for an app where you like have a Bluetooth thing and it syncs to your car, and then it's like it'll analyze your car and it'll tell you like when you need an oil change or whatever. But it'll always give you wrong information. I'm going to call it autocorrect. Texas here too. Houston, they had to steal our votes here. Yeah, they did. Love the Texan drawl. Yeah, that came out, and I didn't realize I could do that until it came out. Guess I've been living here. I just occurred to me last night. I moved around quite a bit when I was growing up. I've lived on 4 continents. I've lived in 5 countries. Then even afterwards, I was in the Air Force, lived in San Antonio a couple of years, lived in Italy for a few years. Anyway, I've lived around. And next month will make Texas the longest place I've lived in one place. It'll be 14 years. So I guess I've lived here long enough to learn how to do a fake Texas drawl. Hopefully I don't like accidentally start developing a real Texas drawl. Prison towns always become highly intersectional due to people moving to help the imprisoned family members. You want to know a funny story, Dusty? So I was born on August 1st in Delhi, Louisiana. And the reason I was born, I don't know if you know anything about Delhi, Louisiana. Very unlikely you do. It's a very small town, and it's like, it is a prison town. And my mom was visiting her cousin who happened to be a prison guard at that prison when she went into labor. So I was born in Delhi, Louisiana. And because they had a prison there. I think transgenderism is fine until you start staying 10-year-old can make their decision. I think that nobody, okay, what do you mean start saying 10-year-olds can make that decision? Like, what does that mean? Because there's a lot to be really careful about here. All that we're saying, all that anybody is saying, is that children should be able to get counseling at that age. Like they should be able to talk to somebody that's not going to judge them. That's all. And I happen to have I have a transgender nephew. My wife has a transgender nephew, or a transgender cousin. I'm sorry. Both of them had, you know, these kinds of awareness from when they were really young. So the part of the problem with that is one, it's when you say you start saying 10-year-olds can make that decision. But one of the misperceptions is that there's being irreversible changes on them. They're choosing to get like sex change operations or something at 10. That's not true. The other thing is the idea of calling it a decision. And if Rainbow were here, Rainbow Kitty were here, I'm sure Rainbow Kitty would tell you that Rainbow never decided that Rainbow was trans. It is not a decision. It is an immutable trait within a person. Trans Texans are amazing. When you do that Texan impression, it sounds like, "Oh, brother, where art there?" When the hick says, "And stay out of the wars." That's not bad. Here's a fun story, though. I don't know if you know this. Who is it? Who is it? George Clooney. You know how George Clooney sings in that movie? And well, the character sings, and he took like months of voice lessons and for the role, and then they started shooting, and he sang one time, and they're like, "Now we're gonna need to get a voice double." So he doesn't do the singing. Apparently, he's not a very good singer. It didn't take them long to realize not only can he not sing, he cannot learn how to sing. It's a funny story. I feel that because I'm in the same boat. I've been paid to sing in other places. Like I'll go and I'll open up a guitar and I'll start singing, and then people will say, "Go some other place and do that." Trans 10-year-olds are beautiful and inspiring. People's gender is just at the paint on the house to say. Wait, his opponent's wife endorsed him? Yeah, his opponent's wife endorsed him. He cheated on his wife. She's mad, and she's actually in the Texas legislature as a Republican. I know that kid. ACAB, it's our right to protest. They dragged the kid into the street. Wait, what happened here? I don't know about this, Dusty. Did they beat up some trans kid or something? If China wanted, they would walk through USA, everyone too gay to do anything. Well, that's a really, really weird statement. You are a sorry individual. At least I know how to spell individual. I definitely think Tallarico is a good fit for Texas. I've been trying to stay in my own state in Illinois. We just don't have much happening yet. So in some ways, Tallarico actually reminds me of Obama. Not in every way. I'm not comparing him to Obama. I'm just saying there's some ways that he reminds me of Obama, if you can allow for the distinction. But I lived in Obama. I was living in Chicago and voted for Obama, and now I live in Texas and get to vote for Tallarico. So I think that's pretty cool. When Obama came down here to endorse Tallarico, I thought that was really cool. I thought about that. The reason they don't translate because rugby is very much a flow sport, whereas American, yeah, but I mean, like, I'm just saying it works both ways, right? Like if you're going to say that they're not the same. I mean, the reason that NFL players aren't great rugby players is they have spent their whole life learning to play an entirely different sport. It's like saying, tennis players don't translate to badminton. A 10 10-year, 1 should not be allowed puberty blocker, and 2 should not be allowed to get any surgery counseling. They're not getting surgery counseling, and for the most part, no one is ever getting puberty blockers at 10, permanent puberty blockers. There are some people that get puberty blockers at a young age if they've had sufficient counseling, and they're not permanent. They're reversible, because there's what is not reversible is puberty. And so they're going to have to live their entire life with an Adam's apple if they're a transgender woman, if they don't get the puberty blockers. And, people be like, oh, well, there's people that may, change their mind afterward. Okay, that's like a very, very tiny percent. And even a lot of the people that stop puberty blockers, it's not because they changed their mind. It's because they didn't have the money for them. So there is a kind of anti-trans rhetoric that rings true with people who aren't necessarily anti-trans. So I would just, recommend go on and really look at things. As somebody that has family that has gone through the process, doctors are not sitting there trying to compel children to be, to get a sex change or something. No, they're just they are treating patients. And they go through years of counseling and with people that are trained experts. What I am not for is politicians deciding health care for other families. And if you're in counseling, you're not making an active decision. You're just talking with someone who can be objective and unopinionated and unaffected by what you choose to do better, and by somebody that can advise you and help you. The transgender teens have like a suicide attempt rate of like 50%. And I wish more people would focus on that. How can we save lives rather than worrying about whether or not you approve of the medicine they're on? Pretty similar around central Michigan. You either work in a prison on 127 freeway or you have a family in it. So a trans kid was protesting ICE. He got dragged into the street and intentionally shot them. Oh, I got to look into this. Are you talking about the thing in Texas with the people that the guy shot a police officer and now he's going to prison for 100 years or whatever? Or are you talking about that one? Or the kid got shot, the trans kid got shot for protesting ICE. I'll look into it. If you could put his name here, and then I could look it up. Could you look for Obama? I don't know what that means. And I don't think an NFL player could actually handle rugby. They wouldn't be able to tolerate it physically or mentally without the 2-minute breaks. Yeah, I think you're not realizing how physical of a game American football is. I was trying to look it up, and it's just a running theme across excessive force from riot police. They so intentionally misuse their gear. And they're always, it's like, it's funny that the protesters are always expected to de-escalate, and the police are okay to escalate, and it should be the other way around. Like, the police are the ones that are trained to de-escalate. So they've got some more stuff on the Pete Buttigieg thing. He wrote a response saying sorry, I got distracted. NFL players get CTE and lots of plaque clouds in the brain causing rage and depression. Rugby must do the same, but worse without a helmet. My mother-in-law was a transcriptionist, like a court transcriber. And one of the cases she worked on was on a helmet. Somebody was suing a helmet company because of their kid had brain damage. And so I was reading all about this, like CTE. I learned, like, I accidentally picked it up and started looking at it. I don't think I was supposed to. But anyway, I thought it was like really interesting how much the science is advancing on CTE. Doctors are the main culprits. What do you mean they are the main culprits, Rick? What does that mean? The culprits. How are they culprits? Like, it's such a weird, like, it sounds like a kind of a MAGA thing to say. Like, do you think that doctors are sitting there rubbing their hands together and trying to make people trans? Like, what does that mean? This is one of the things. Okay, so I'm going to try and approach this from a positive direction, because I get accused of being too negative sometimes. The Housing Act that was passed, and now it looks like Donald Trump has gotten on board because somebody explained the Constitution to him, and he realized, and so if he doesn't sign it, it goes into law in 10 days anyway. So now he's like, okay, I'll sign it. But he wanted to block everything until, we disenfranchise millions of Americans. But the Housing Act, I really think this is what the framers envisioned when they wrote the Constitution and gave Congress the powers it has. And I just want to say, even like Tim Scott and Elizabeth Warren, probably on most things, couldn't even agree on what shape a circle is. But they came together. They negotiated for months. They brought real concerns from both sides of the aisle. They talked about a real issue, which is housing affordability. And they came up with a bill that is actually effective, or that should be effective, and addresses a lot of real concerns. And it had things from both parties in it. And, like from the Republican side, it had things like trying to remove some of the red tape, like deregulate things from which that's one of the big things. And like both from the financing side and from the districting side, like encouraging local communities to allow new homes to be built in their neighborhoods by removing some of the red tape and stuff. And those were Republican initiatives that were put in there. On the other side, there were liberal policies, like 25% of the new homes in some areas, or 25% of home purchases in some areas are snatched up by large investors who then rent the homes. And so what that does is it prevents first-time home buyers from being able to compete to buy a new home. Especially if you look at, they have like different tiers of homes, and there's like this tier of homes that's like for first-time home buyers. The first-time home buyers are the ones that normally go for those. And those are the ones the investors are buying up. And then when they buy those homes up, it drives up the price for homes for first-time homeowners. Then so they don't become first-time homeowners, they just become permanent renters. And in America, one of the biggest ways to build wealth over your lifetime is to buy a house, and then your house accrues value. Then you die, you leave it to your kids get that wealth, and then so on and so forth. It's been a huge thing. That's since the Great Depression. This is how Americans have built wealth. And it goes back to FDR, where he had housing loans and stuff. It only, it was kind of applied through a racist filter, but it is what it is. I mean, we don't need to go into all the history. I want to make sure that nobody thinks I'm trying to avoid that. But so there's things in there to address that part of it. that Elizabeth Warren wanted to put in. There's another thing that nobody's talking about that I think is really, really smart that the liberals wanted to put in there. And that's where you can get funding to fix up a house. So it's like, okay, I want to buy this house, but it needs a new roof. And I can buy the house, but I can't afford the roof. So now there's federal funding to help you pay for that roof so that this person can buy their first time home. And I think that the two parties came together. Give Tim Scott credit, give Elizabeth Warren credit, Maxine Waters, and I can't remember the name of the other Republican from the House. But the four of them, they worked together on it. They came up with a really comprehensive plan that really actually addresses an issue. And I wish we could have more stuff like that happen in Congress instead of just pointing fingers and yelling at each other. All right, so we got, okay. Like the doctors are the main culprits, like whatever that nonsense means. The folks I'm talking about had no weapons. Okay, so I'm confusing it with the thing that there was some kind of trial. There was something in Texas where some protesters got sent to prison, and one of the protesters shot a cop, and people are trying to make it sound like the protesters were just innocent protesters. And some of them were. I have to look into it more, and so I don't want to comment on it more heavily than I should. But there's some real controversy over it. You can have your Adam's apple reduced, but why go through that trouble? Why does it, like, honestly, why, if that were your kid and you wanted to proceed that way, Harry, fine. But shouldn't other parents be able to work with their kid and their doctor and make decisions for themselves? Like, I don't get why people feel like they need to make medical decisions for people they don't even know just on some kind of principle when they don't even understand the issues. Those pesky doctors trying to heal people, so nefarious. It's disgusting, isn't it? I think Shadow's being sarcastic. Doctors usually avoid talking about transes, in my experience. How can a doctor care about a patient's quality of life? What a monster. Oh, how dare. Yeah. I went to a med school, but I'm not a doctor, and doctors only avoid politics to be polite and protect their careers. I mean, I know a doctor that's a MAGA. I'm sorry. I don't want a doctor that's a MAGA. I want a doctor with thinking skills. And that is a red flag to me. I was born in a doctor's office till I was years old. That sounds like a country song, Brett. I was born in a doctor's office. Didn't get a birth certificate till I was years old. Then I wanted to get out and vote, but they said, I ain't got one here, I was told. See, I told you I can't sing. There is a quirk with that there where if Congress passes a bill, but there's less than 10 days left of the session and the president doesn't sign it, but Congress isn't in the session to enact it, it just fails, which is called a pocket veto. Right. But Congress isn't going out of session. All right. I have to be productive citizen. Don't forget to eat a good lunch, dinner, or breakfast, y'all. I do need to eat. I forgot to eat today. Oh, that reminds me, Dusty, I have to go on a beer run very shortly. That's the most important meal of the day. Bye-bye, Dusty. Well, are you... all right. What is it about people named Brett and beer? Sorry, Brett. I had you. You threw that pitch right over the plate. I had to swing at it. You know what I'm saying, right? Infill is awful. I don't know what infill means. I have bought 3 houses and flipped. I am building my own this time. I bought a house and fixed it up. I got 1/3 of an acre. This was 15 years ago. 1/3 of an acre, and I paid $72,000 for it. It's 4 bedrooms. Needed some paint, new roof eventually. Had to painted it inside and outside. Put up some new garages. I got put up in a shed with electricity and everything that I use for a shop. A house is a liability, not an asset. No, I don't even know what that's supposed to mean. But no, a house is technically called an asset. I don't know what you mean by it's a liability, not an asset. When people say it's an asset, what they mean is that they have monetary value in them. As you pay them off, it builds value. It builds wealth. I think maybe you're trying to be clever with how the word asset is used, but it's an asset. That's why I'm hanging on to my house for dear life, to leave my children. Yes. And that is a big part of it. And millionaires want to sit there and protect, inheritance tax, but they don't want to protect the inheritance tax for people that aren't millionaires. Back in about 30 to 45 minutes, Dusty made me go on the Friday beer run. Did you hear, Brett's not here anymore, but one of the things that I thought was funny is with the World Cup in Boston, apparently the Scottish are drinking up all the beer. Like nobody can get beer anymore because the Scottish fans keep drinking it all. It is the cheapest plus a plumber. It's even more savings. What's the interest rate? Oh, I paid cash. As a Canadian, using government programs is not a winning way to go. I'm Canadian and use every government program I can. They are reliable and insured. And this is something, we have this habit of thinking government is bad. Government is better at a lot of things than private enterprise. America spends like almost twice as much money per capita on healthcare than anybody else in the world. And everybody's like, I don't want to, my taxes go up. Okay, you're paying $1,000 a month in healthcare insurance, and you don't want to pay $200 a month in extra taxes so that you can have health insurance covered by your taxes. Then you don't have that. I don't think MAGA understands how math works. We spend more per capita than any country in the world, and yet because we have so many people that don't have access to insurance, we're like down in the 30s in terms of healthcare. Now, if you're rich and you can get priority treatment at the Mayo Clinic, you're good to go. Or, like I had an appendectomy at the St. Mary's, the Mayo Clinic Hospital, because I was living in Rochester, Minnesota. And I got it for free. The state of Minnesota paid for it because I was broke. But I got lucky. Most people don't have that. Who cares about what people do to their Adam's apple? Not my business. Right. Because for as long as we can, the kids have the mental capacity to buy beer, don't have the mental capacity to buy cigarettes, don't have them. But they're not making life-altering decisions. That's the thing. They're not. You are making life-altering decisions for them. Kids aren't making decisions. They're not just sitting there. Nobody, like Harry, I encourage, because you are an intelligent person and you read and stuff like that. I would just say challenge yourself a little bit. and go and look into what needs to happen before they get prescriptions. Most 10-year-olds aren't getting medication to puberty blockers. Puberty blockers can be reversed, and most of the kids that do it, like there's not that many of them. They're very, very small percentage of a very, very small percentage of that community, which is also a very, very small percentage of the overall community. And it only happens if the doctor and the parents feel like that is in the child's best interest. So the children are not making a decision to put them on puberty blockers. They're making a request, the parents and the doctors, who, I think when you're talking about something like that, where it's going to be a case-by-case basis, it should be a case-by-case basis. That's what I'm saying. And the people who make the decision should be their parents and their doctors, not a politician. But who's going to pay for that? Well, I mean, of course, what if they don't want to go through surgery? Why do you make, like, it's just, you're forcing them to do one thing they don't want to do because you wouldn't let them do the other thing they wanted to do. The Canadian government programs are the only ones worth using. All the free market stuff is unreliable and way more expensive for less coverage. House says, oy vey. Doctors have no incentive to say no. Yes, they do. They're doctors. They're not motivated by finances. They're motivated by the reason that they went on to become doctors. This notion that, like, is somehow you have some people that think that everybody that disagrees with them has evil motivations. Like, the people don't go into healthcare because they want to maliciously force children to change genders. Like, that's not what doctors are there for. Whether the kid is getting puberty blockers or not, they're getting counseling. So it has no effect on whether that doctor is going to keep getting business. They're not getting like a cut of the puberty blockers. It's these, I mean, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be offensive to people who are trying to, like, engage in good faith, but I just feel like people really need to educate themselves. There is so much disinformation, wrong information, false assumptions, and demonizing of either the children themselves or the people that care for them. Like, my brother, whose son, I thought it was a daughter until he was about 12. And then he said, I think I'm supposed to be a boy. And my brother and his wife had a lot of really long, hard conversations about how to handle it. They went to a doctor. My nephew is seeing a doctor now for a couple of years. I don't think they're on puberty blockers or anything yet, but they're just seeing counseling. And I think if the doctor were to say that he should get puberty blockers, then he would get puberty blockers. But it's not a fancy. He didn't just come home one day and say, this is what I am. It's been years now that he's felt this way. I just think that these things are not, they're not, you can't be cavalier about it. Each case needs to be reasoned out between the people that are involved in it. I just don't think it's the government's place to decide when it is. If you don't, if you want to encourage, if you had a transgender child and transgender daughter, and you didn't think that she should get puberty blockers, and she could get her Adam's apple removed later? That's fine. That's your decision. That is your daughter. I am not going to tell you how to raise your children. But I just ask people not to tell my brother and his doctor how to raise his. Canada has pushed euthanasia to. I is that really true, or is that seems like hyperbole? I mean, I would have to see something other than a comment on a YouTube channel to believe that. I don't believe that doctors are like pushing euthanasia. No, have you really? You should really think about just, like letting us kill you. I don't think that is, that seems to go against the Hippocratic Oath. Okay, it's a medical trend that we will find out. Oops, is bad, like certain SSRI given to the kids. I will look into it because I'm much more educated on other subjects, and I think it is a disservice to try and have a debate in an ignorant state. Yeah, and it's something I actually have moved a lot. I say this as somebody that has actually gone through the process of learning about it, realizing that I had some misconceptions, and then changing and adapting according to it. And I think that this is something probably not just in America, but in all kinds of places where we've kind of devalued the idea of learning and changing our mind and adapting as we go. Okay, well, I didn't know that. One of the things that I think that I learned that you could look into that I did not know is when the fetus is developing, one of the first things that is formed is the genitals, and you get the chromosomes and stuff like that happening. But your body, as the fetus is developing, sometimes it kind of changes its mind, but the genitals are already there. But then the I don't like the hormonal aspects of gender and the brain, like the brain can develop a little bit differently for males and females. Actually develops differently too. And I don't mean that in a like, oh, I decided I'm gonna like pink. I'm talking about other things like I don't want to say something wrong, but they're like they've done these studies on it that show it's not just penis or vagina. There's all kinds of and it's not just about chromosomes. There's hormones involved, and your hormones sometimes hormonal development is female hormonal development, while the anatomical distinction is male, or vice versa. So it's not just hermaphrodites and stuff like that. I don't think that's what they're called anymore, but anyway, I don't mean to use derogatory terms, so if I do, I apologize. I try to not do it, and I'm not always, I'm Gen X, so and some of these terms have changed over time. And so if I'm wrong, correct me, and I will try to be accurate. Anyway, I think that so it's not like a transgender person is sitting there trying, like going, gee, it'd be better. I think I'd be happier if I were a boy. That's not what's happening. What's happening is their brain chemistry is literally telling them they are different than what their anatomy is telling them. And that's what gender dysphoria is. that your brain is telling you one thing and your body is telling you another. And I just think of it like, like they have this thing called phantom limb syndrome, right? And where if somebody has their arm amputated, they can still feel their arm even though it's not there. What's in their brain is more real than what's in their physical body. And that is what they find with people that are transgender. There's this disconnect between their brain and their anatomy. And in general, not all of the time, but overall, they find that it's easier for transgender people to make their body match their brain than try to force their brain to match their body. And that is what made me change my rationale about what it is to be a transgender. And there's a TV show called Altered States or Altered Carbon, where somebody will, like they can keep somebody's brain active, and then they put it into a body like hundreds of years later. And that it's a good show. It's a good show. And they actually have two different actors play the 2 seasons of it. I should watch that again. But it got me to thinking, imagine if somebody were to take your brain and put it in a female's body. Would you be like, I'm female now, and then just be a female? Do you think your brain would just start thinking, IP sitting down now? Or do you think your brain wouldn't change? Like, I think that's, people need to understand this is what it is to be transgender. And this is why it is really difficult, especially when society is placing demands on them without trying to understand them at all. The uncle is cooked. This uncle is cooked. Okay. I don't know what that means. I think hermaphrodites are called intersex. That's the word. Thank you, sir, or ma'am, or they. Sorry. But yeah, that intersex, that's the word I was trying to think. I knew I was using the wrong word and I couldn't think of it, but thank you. Phantom pain is a mad thing. Yeah, that is correct, last man. So anyway, I just and I appreciate you are an intellectually honest person, Harry. And so I just encourage you to go and one way I learn about some of these more complicated things, and I'm not trying to say read AI and just take their word for it, but go to AI and have a conversation, and then if it tells you something, say, do you have a source for that? Like I do this with chat all the time, and I'll say, well, okay, what's the source for that? And then the chat will tell me the source. Then I go and read the source. So I'm like reading the original source material rather than just AI. AI just becomes like a super advanced search engine to help me learn about the topic, and that's how I use it. I use it for study, not as study, or for research, not as research. It's a tool. It's not the objective. But it is more complicated, and there is some research on I think actually in UK is one of the countries where they're kind of pulling back a little bit on care for transgender children and like the medical community. And I think the medical community in the UK and the medical community in the US right now, they're not like perfectly aligned on all this. No line at the store. I love it. You're back. Have you heard about NYC rent being frozen for 2 years? Trump made a speech. You don't like it. Landlord sympathizer. Oh, of course. That's like the best endorsement Mem Donnie could get. So Harry, I will. I'll look into it and get back Monday. I read about this a few years ago. I read a study that I thought was really fascinating. There's some other things like about transgender women in sports, and it's interesting because there are actually some sports where transgender boys actually do better than biological boys or cisgender boys, because there are certain advantages that women have over men, like their blood holds more oxygen for some reason. And so some of the endurance sports, like long distance running and stuff, uh they don't have the strength, but they're the blood can hold more oxygen. So then when they get um the steroids and whatnot, and it evens out the strength somewhat, then but it doesn't change the blood chemistry. And so they actually and if your blood can hold more oxygen, then that means uh when you're doing aerobic sports, you can actually compete better because you don't have to breathe as much because there's more oxygen around. Anyway, I just found it interesting. I think there's a lot. It's a lot more complicated, and in a lot of and there is like sports aren't the same one sport to the next sport. People aren't the same. There's so few people where it even where it even applies. I just feel like this kind of thing the federal government just needs to stay out of it. The government period needs to stay out of it. I think it should be decided by the league, the parents, the doctors. Like, we don't need the government messing around in our personal lives. I don't even know, and this is something that you would think Republicans would agree with. Like, they sit there and they go, "Oh, you can't force me to use your pronouns," but they want to force transgender people to use the pronouns that they want. Like, you can't tell me to call you a girl, and then they want to make it illegal for you to call yourself a girl if you're transgender. And it's just like, how is that even consistent? AI lies to me all the time. They literally call it hallucinating, but it's just lying and making things up, right? And that's why I'm always like, what is the original source? And so then I will go and I will read the original sourced article, the original. And where it gets really good is if you can get it to start, especially when you're talking about things like transgender studies. If you can find like original source studies. I do this with both the transgender thing. I with transgender studies. I do this with been getting a lot into microbiome health and learning about that and probiotics and all of that kind of stuff. Those things where I try to go and look at the actual what the actual scientists actually say. And then sometimes I'll have to be like, okay, this is over my head. And so then I'll take it back to chat and I'll, like paste paragraphs and stuff and say, "Oh, explain this to me." And so it's good for that too, like kind of dumbing it down for people that aren't, PhDs. The NHS is restricting if they're not banning it, but they are implementing a lot of safeguards to make sure, as much as possible, only the most severe cases of gender dysphoria can get treatment as a child. And then how do you define child? I think that there's like, people are like, "Oh, they're doing this with prepubescent children," but that's kind of the point, of being prepubescent. And there are people who they call it regret or something. I can't remember, but there are a certain percentage of people who go through treatment and then later in life wish there were. There are some impact of people that have been on puberty blockers that may not be reversible. It doesn't say they're not, but in the grand scheme, like, they're not that severe. And it negates that there are also irreversible things if you go through puberty, and just a surgery on an Adam's apple isn't the only thing, you know. Biggest takeaway from the World Cup: 250 years of American culture, and the most fascinating thing apparently is salad dressing. What did I? This is the second comment about ranch. I missed something about ranch. Are Europeans discovering ranch dressing or something? So I like to joke about ranch dressing, but you know, as you know, so those of you who, which it seems like most of the people commenting today are my regulars. I've been doing a lot of fermenting my own stuff. So I ferment my own yogurt, I ferment my own kefir, and I have a garden with some fresh herbs in it. So I made ranch dressing out of you know, like a yogurt kefir mix with, you know, homegrown herbs, and boy, that was that is good. I would, like, if you like ranch dressing, you would love this dressing. But the NHS is pretty unified in implementing a lot of the rules they have on this particular issue. Yeah, I think, you know, I think your NHS is probably more trustworthy than Robert Kennedy Jr. Trans kids in sports is awesome. Have you had a chance to research this Trump medical story I brought up yesterday? I heard it. Okay, so wait. All right, I haven't. I didn't even think about it. So what are you talking about? The Trump medical story and Eli Lilly. Let me see something. I'm actually going and asking chat right now about this. All right. Oh, Trump is taking experimental Eli Lilly weight loss drugs. Is that what you're talking about? Why does he need to take weight loss drugs if he's already perfect weight? The reporting stated that after Stat News revealed the FDA granted compassionate use access to Eli Lilly's experimental obesity drug, Retatragud. Is that how you say it? Retragude? I don't know. For an unarmed, well-connected 79-year-old man, for an unarmed, well-connected 79-year-old man with severe obesity and healthcare conditions. Because Trump recently turned 80, has visibly lost weight, and obviously well-connected speculation exploded online. Oh, okay. So there's 1 + 1 = 2. So the Eli Lilly gave this drug to a 79-year-old fatty with health conditions, and people are going, well, Trump is a now 80-year-old fatty. He was 79 at the time, and he's lost weight. Could there be a connection? The White House has explicitly denied that the patient is Trump. At this point, there is no evidence Trump received the drug. The patient's identity has not been publicly disclosed. The speculation is based on circumstantial similarities, not proof. A separate controversy arose over ethics disclosures, show that Trump's investment portfolio purchased up to roughly $680,000 worth of Eli Lilly stock while his administration was pursuing policies favorable to the obesity drugs. Criticisms created this. Well, that so there's some other stuff going on with all that. And I do kind of want, I mean, it is kind of like, okay, so you got that going on. You got Trump, you know, buying up stock, and you've got Trump's fondness for transactional things. I would say that's in the ballpark of believable but not proven. I don't understand. And okay, I don't understand the big deal. If I'm in a restroom, I don't care what somebody is trans or not. I'm not there for their organs. I'm there to relieve myself and then go. Who GAF? I just like, especially with the restroom thing, that is really like, I would be much more concerned about Nancy Mace kicking the door open and demanding to see my genitals than I would about a transgender woman peeing. Like if I were a woman, like I would feel safer with the transgender woman peeing in the stall next to me than with Nancy Mace in the stall next to me. Like that's psychotic. Worrying I was so much about the person peeing next to you. Like what kind of crazy person worries about that? Yeah, I feel unsafe. Well, that's a personal issue. That's a you person. That's a you problem, Nancy. That's a you problem. You have a problem with that? Well, we should have a restroom just for them. How about we have a restroom just for Nancy Mace? And for transphobic people who can't handle reality. How about we just have, this is a special restroom just for psychos who hate transgender people. And you can all use the same one. And you can just wait in line. We'll have one toilet and a sink. You can just, if you don't like it, you go wait in line. How's that sound? I think that's it. That's what we need to do. That solves all the problem. Everybody that doesn't care about transgender people can just use whatever restroom they identify with. And anybody that worries about what people are in their bathroom, they can wait in the one toilet line and deal with that. And then they don't have to worry about transgender people bothering them. We don't need a separate bathroom for transgender people. We need a separate restroom for transphobic people. I like that. I just came up with that idea, and I think that's what should happen. What do you guys think? I think MAGA care because they have feelings about it in ways they feel embarrassed about. I think there may be some of that. I think some of it is religious. I think there are people that feel like that well, the Bible says that, you know, like men shouldn't dress like women. And if I allow for that, then I might have to start allowing for other things that don't agree with my faith. And then that means that if you're asking me to accept that people can live that make me question my faith, then somehow that is an attack on my faith. And so therefore, this is a violation of my freedom to admit that transgender people exist. I had to do something similar to Lear about a syndrome which affected my family. What I don't understand. What is Lear? Is that a weight loss drug or what? I don't know. Am I not picturing? I've always thought of you as being like a tall, thin guy with dark hair for some reason, Harry. I always imagine Brett as like this really fit guy that rides a bike. 1%. I don't know. I don't even know why I picture people in my head based on their things. It's not like the British flag makes me think of you as being like a tall, thin guy, kind of like a Hugh Grant type, which was only discovered in 2019 and have less than 200. Wow. Oh, I've made blue cheese dressing too, Olivia. I made blue cheese. So what I did with my blue cheese is I made some. I fermented my kefir and my yogurt, mixed that all up, put in some blue cheese and a little bit of homemade fermented mayo, by the way, and some blue cheese, a little bit of season, and then I let it just sit and ferment for like 12 hours, just to kind of bloom the blue cheese, so you get that like the blue cheese flavor, like really, I wouldn't say strong, but rich. Like sometimes fermenting things gives them more depth of flavor. Anyway, if you had my blue cheese dressing, you would be like, this is the best blue cheese dressing I've ever had in my life. Not because I did the work. The probiotics did the work. C-SPAN yesterday, representative from California, Ted Lieu, suggested that Trump is being treated for an illness with some sort of experimental drug from Eli Lilly. Well, that's interesting. I wonder. I mean, I believe it's possible. It's feasible. I don't know what the bruising is for. I don't think it's from handshaking, like he says. Oh, also, this patient had about a 62-day window of life expectancies at its current lifestyle. Okay, not going to comment because I don't want to get banned or lose my channel. Why is blood getting so pressed? What is that? I don't know what that means. What is blood? What do you mean blood? What is blood? B-L-U-D. Is that like an acronym? Oh, so it's like brother, mate, dude. So why am I getting so pressed? That's 99% of the world, little bro. Are you talking to me? I don't know what you mean. I'm sorry. That's too vague for me to pick up from a YouTube comment. MAGA are fake Christians, or they wouldn't support anything that Donald does. Yeah, I mentioned before, I spent 15 years as a Christian minister. What they say has nothing at all to do with the Bible. I just will say that much. And a lot of what they say directly contradicts other things in the Bible. When I say their faith, I don't mean like the actual Christian faith. I mean the right-wing Christian nationalist faith, which is like pseudo-Christian. And the Bible actually says, in that day, there will be people who come to me and say, Lord, Lord, didn't I do this and do that in your name? And then the Lord will tell them, be gone from me. I never knew you. And that's where it says, where were you when I was cold and you wouldn't let me in? Where were you when I was hungry and you wouldn't feed me? And that doesn't tell you, that doesn't sound like MAGA Christians who are literally taking food away from children. That is exactly what they are doing. They're sitting there screaming about how they're doing this for Jesus while they do the very thing Jesus told them they shouldn't do. So no, I don't think they're Christians. I think they just claim to be Christians. They're pseudo-Christians. When is the last time you heard, they're like, oh, Charlie Kirk used to preach the gospel. No, Charlie Kirk never preached the gospel. Charlie Kirk called people who were transgender murderers, and he got killed for doing it. And I thought I endorsed his death, like his murder. But let's be honest about things. He didn't get killed because some left-wing activist, heard Chuck Schumer say something dramatic and radical, and so he went and decided he was going to shoot Charlie Kirk. No, what happened is Charlie Kirk was sitting there lying about transgender people over and over again, and a guy whose girlfriend was transgender and grew up in a really confused, convoluted, pseudo right-wing Christian Muslim whatever, or not Muslim, Mormon home, and just had all kinds of confusion. You shot him for talking crap about his girlfriend. I am trans, we are nice. The other thing, Olivia, that really helped me change my mind about transgender people and learn about transgender people, and I hope this doesn't come across as condescending or anything, because I absolutely mean it to be the opposite. I talked to transgender people, and I learned about their experiences. And I didn't say stuff. I just asked questions, and I learned. I was like, and I've talked to several transgender people. I wouldn't say interviewed them, but in a relationship, with coworkers and whatnot, like just ask them about their experience and, did they know it all? Some transgender people didn't grow up thinking they're transgender. Like some people realized it later. I talked to one man who didn't really come to grips with the fact he was transgender until he was in his 60s. So, and every transgender person I've ever talked to is a nice person. I'm sure there's some that are jerks. There's people of every ilk that are jerks, but I've never had issues with transgender people. I think maybe transgender people have to be more ingratiating and more appeasing just because they're getting judged. I've never eaten blue cheese. Wow, you don't know what you're missing. It's good stuff. But anyway, I think Operation Epstein Fury has been a smashing success. So you guys have actually like done stuff about it, unlike us. We question people behind closed doors. That's how we're really doing something about it by asking questions, and nothing's gonna get there like a question. There was a guy that gave Epstein a bunch of bribe money or something that they talked to today, and now they're bringing him back under oath. What do you think of the Anglican Church? All right. I would say, all right, here's my view on being a Christian. There's no such thing as churches in the Bible. There is like a church, like lowercase c, where and if you're not a Christian, I'm sorry, I won't belabor this too long. But if you're a Christian, you're part of a church in a city, or just a part of the universal church overall. If you look at the Bible, there's never mention of more than one church in a city. It's always just the one church. And then there's the one universal church. And so I personally don't think of different churches as being like different churches. I just think of Christians as being Christians. The Anglican Church, if I recall correctly, came as a split between who is the head of the church, whether it's the Pope, and then I think it was the Queen initial. Was it Queen Elizabeth? I'm not sure. But anyway, the English, not Queen. Anyway, I think it's the Anglican Church has more political origins than biblical ones. But I don't. It's not a judgment, just an observation. Yeah, Brett, she's right. Try blue cheese. It is good. It's really good. I see lots of fake religions at churches. Fake religious. And I think you got fake religious people in other religions too. It's not just. But I think that sometimes people tend to throw out the baby with the bathwater. There are genuinely decent God-fearing Christians also that are honestly kind and try to follow the Bible. And I think sometimes there are people that I as a Christian, I have my Christian friends are like, how can you be a Democrat? And my liberal friends are like, how can you be a Christian? And I think the two things, as a Christian, I have to be a Democrat. But I'm not a MAGA Christian. I'm an actual Christian who follows the Bible and sees things like, did you know that in Acts 2, they actually practiced communism, for instance? They sold all things and had all things in common. They said, I think the word, the most repeated command in the New Testament is to feed the poor. Like there are, like, if you are a Christian, you should be a Democrat. Now, I won't say the opposite is true. Like, being a Democrat doesn't mean you're a Christian, but I think being a Democrat and being a Christian are incredibly consistent. Why are we sending National Guard troops to occupy the reflecting pool in DC? So that we can perpetuate the lie that vandals caused Donald Trump to, cause the damage. If we ever meet in person someday, Brett, I will make you a salad that has my blue cheese dressing on it. Bernie Sanders was sat there telling the kid to go. I don't know what that's about. I don't think Bernie Sanders is actually trying to tell anybody to assassinate the president. Trans people are a non-existent political entity and make up 0.002% of the population. Well, they make up more than that. But yeah, they are. It's more like about 2% of the population, depending on what you call a trans person. People who identify as trans make up about 2% of the population. And they are used as a bludgeon in a culture war. And the thing is, people act like, oh, the liberals are sitting there pushing this trans agenda. And it's like, it's not like this whole thing started because all of a sudden Democrats just started screaming about trans people. The whole thing is a culture war because Republicans made it a wedge issue, like Nathan is saying, or Nathaniel. They just decided they're trying to force your daughters to come home as sons. I mean, the whole thing is Democrats are very happy to just say, just leave it between a doctor and the parents and the children, and don't worry about it. Like, I am literally just, I don't understand why we need to make a federal case out of it, a literal federal case. That's how it usually goes. Most people have never met a trans person. Yeah, some of us know early, some later. Some of us are writing online for money. Blair and Caitlin. But Christians disagree what Christians believe. For example, the Catholic Church would say that divorce is forbidden under any circumstances. What the Anglican Church says, that divorce should be allowed in effect, whatever you want. What happened was the Pope refused to grant an amendment, an annulment. That's it. Henry, hey, by the way, Harry, you might appreciate this. I actually am descended from Henry VIII. Yeah, I have royal blood in me, but what do you think of that? Are you impressed? Allegedly, it comes from he had a son. He actually had children that, like bastard children, and I come from one of the bastard lineages. But he has. Does that impress you? And I thought it was just like family folklore until I got one of the, I did the family tree thing, and it's actually true. But he always said till the day he died that there was a loyal Catholic. Don't think Henry VIII was a Protestant. He hated Protestants. The only thing that Henry VIII disagreed on with the Catholic Church was that the Pope should be the supreme authority in England. He believed he should be the supreme authority in England. You're nuts. Democrats support murder of unborn. No, they don't. I don't think you can murder a zygote. You know, I think that is, you're entitled to that opinion, but don't express for me what you think my opinion is based on what you believe. The Bible, here's the thing. The Bible only talks about abortion in one place. All right. And the only place where it talks about abortion is if a man believes his wife got pregnant through another man. And so then he would bring his wife to the priest, to the high priest. And the high priest would make the wife drink these bitter waters. And then if she drank the waters and she had actually cheated on her husband, the father was through infidelity, then it would cause her womb to bleed and cause a miscarriage. And it would said, you know, and it even says that God would cause it to happen. So the only place in the Bible where they mention abortions is God performing abortions. So according to you, God murders unborn children. According to the Bible and you. You don't like it? Go ahead, look it up. I'm not going to argue about it all day long, but that's what the Bible says. They are still looking, and there's people that rationalize away and try to, it's called the parable of bitter waters. There's all kind of rationalizations, but if you look at the actual text of the actual verses, that's what it's actually saying. They're still looking for that invisible ninja that cut the 200 foot, 250 foot, no, 300. Yeah, it's amazing how he keeps cutting it more and more every day, and nobody's able to catch him. The people that cleaned the pool have actually said there is no 300-foot cut. There are like a couple of gashes maybe, but those wouldn't have been caused by, you know, like what Trump is saying. And it's there's the canoeist guy who like touched, all he did was like touch one of the floating pieces of you know, paint, and somehow that means that, you know, it sent a backward ripple through time that caused algae. And I think one of the things that has only been mentioned a little bit that is really stunning is Obama had a bunch of work done. We've talked about this. Obama had a bunch of work done on it like 15 years ago. Because what happened is it had been sinking and it was leaking lots and lots of water, and they were using the potable city water to fill it. And so they were losing all this city drinking water. Consistent, like all the time, like millions of gallons of water were being wasted. So they changed the filtration system, and they changed the source to be the Potomac rather than drinking water. And initially, there was an initial period of time where there was some algae issues after that change, but it was expected and it was treated, and it was, you know, it was all part of the project. Obama didn't blame vandals for it. Then you know, and then there were some issues, and like some leaking started again and stuff like that. Then when Trump had his work done, because Obama had put it on the Potomac water, you know, of course, Trump is like, I have to undo everything Obama ever did. And I honestly think the only reason he has to do this memorial reflecting pool thing is because Obama did. So he put it back on the potable drinking water. All right. Now, the potable drinking water, the pipes are there, and it's also got phosphates in it. It's treated with phosphates. Part of the phosphates are something the algae like to eat. So he put algae food in the water. The vandal that gave the algae fertilizer is Donald Trump when he put it back on the potable drinking water. Nobody mentions that. I think it's funny as hell. They posted a video of that culprit last night. Somebody touched the water with their bare hand. I didn't see the 350-foot coming in that touch. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how touching water causes 350-foot cut to a retroactively go back in time and create a gash in a tube. Oh, so you're nuts. You want the born, but you want to cut off any kind of food or health assistance, right? And that's the other thing. A lot of MAGAs are pro-birth, pro-compelled birth, not pro-life. Life doesn't just start at birth. It continues until you die. Can Donald Trump figure out what jobs he's doing? Mayor, POTUS, pool cleaner. And for the record, it's yes. I let him pass on that one. We have since this is your first time, I gave you a pass, Jag. But just so you know, the war on apostrophes is not tolerated here. The MAGA war on apostrophes. I do not know why it is that your have so much trouble with MAGAs. It's YOU apostrophe RE. All right. It means you are. If you have trouble remembering, just remember the apostrophe means it's two words. So just say it out loud to yourself. Then the your is possessive. So that means like, this is your bread. This is your fault. All right. But it would be you are an idiot would be YOU apostrophe RE. Or your nuts would be YOU apostrophe RE. Help me fight the war on apostrophes. It does not need to be a partisan divide. I'm jealous now because I'm not descendant to royalty, or at least on my dad's side. I wonder, should I make you, does that mean that you are my subject, Harry? So there was this, I think you'll appreciate this one. This goes back like 20 years ago. Can't remember who the celebrity was. I wish I could. But there was a celebrity, a reporter in the UK was interviewing. And they asked him, like they heard he had a really fantastic, he was really, really good with puns, which, you know, I'm Machine Pun Kelly. Of course, I like my puns. So they asked him, I heard you're really good with puns. Can you make a pun on just about any subject? And the reporter thinks for a second. She says, he says, go ahead, pick a subject. So she thinks for a second. And she says, how about the Queen? And he's like, that's not fair. The Queen's not a subject. So that's like just pun master to pun master. I respect that one. I'm an old bastard myself. Speaking of nuts, the conspiracy types of talking about the plane into the tower in China today. The plane into the tower in China. Did a plane hit a tower in China? Really, I don't have the neuroplasty for the. That's why I had to I ended up just having to take like a month away. It was just, it's not just how bad the news is all the time, or that Donald Trump is destroying the country. It is the embracing of destruction. It's like getting thrown into a wood chipper and screaming, I voted for this, as though you're winning. Nobody takes a victory lap around an L like a MAGA. They should just turn it into a fishing pond for the people. Bass fishing, good eating too. I think it's kind of appropriate and metaphorically perfect that he has literally turned the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool into a swamp. I think that's hilarious. Like, it's a reflecting pool. Like, you think about that, right? Like, this is, when you look at it, this is what you see, right? You see yourself. He has turned it into a swamp. He has turned DC into a swamp. He has turned the White House into a swamp. He is the swampiest swamp monster in the history of swamp monsters. Algae eating piranhas. Well, that would definitely keep people from reaching in there. So are you descendant through Henry Carey or his sister Catherine? I'm a descendant through, the legend is the family lore, I should say, is that we are descended through a bastard son. So he actually had a son that was a bastard that he can never claim. Because he's 3 legitimate children, all didn't have kids, and all the other legitimate children didn't have kids. No, but this is like he didn't claim the child or something. Like, does that mean we can drink the water? I wish my mama's dead, so I can't ask her. But that's what I remember from when I was a kid. Does that mean we can drink the water in the pool? The Lincoln Memorial Reflecting Pool? In theory, yeah. If there's not algae and I mean, right now you can't, but you can drink the water that's flowing into the pool. No, the Potomac is no longer what's going in there. He switched it. Like, they were taking water from the Potomac, treating it, and then putting it in the pool. Now it's back to the potable drinking water. Like trying to teach a monkey to type. My girlfriend's brother took us boating down the Potomac in his cabin cruiser past the memorial in August. Smells like poop. Insert Trump joke here. Okay. I'm sorry. I had to, this made me laugh before I could even click on it. I don't know why that one hit my funny bone so hard, but that's funny. Bet Trump has swamp booty. I bet he does. I bet he does. Oh, you sit around in those unchanged diapers for long, I bet you get some pretty bad swamp booty. That is hilarious. You get like 5 stars for that one, Jason. Thank you for the laugh. Have you ever heard of the story of Simon Abney Hastings? I have not. And I've never heard of Simon Abney Hastings. But I have a hunch I'm about to learn. Is that I'm assuming it's connected to the whole Henry VIII thing. Being related to famous, it's like historical figures. If you do like a thing, then you'll find out I think especially depending on how far back it goes, because you get all the cousins and stuff. You're related to all kinds of people. I'm actually related to Rosa Parks, Muhammad Ali. I'm related to FDR. I'm related, and Teddy Roosevelt. Anyway, some royalty people. Anyway, because and we had, like, I had people come over. Am I losing my I think my feed got a little choppy there. But like, I had ancestors that came over, and it was some of the first people that came over here. So my relatives go way back. My family goes way back. Not that it matters. Insert Trump joke here. Oh, there are just so many places to go with that. But since I'm a monetized channel, I'm afraid to go there. But I mean, it is. I mean, we were just talking about perfect metaphors. Oh my goodness. The poop swamp. I don't know. That might be the best way to describe Trump is poop swamp. Sunyan. What is Sunyan? What is that a word you just, is that a, are you saying opinion? So Simon Abney Hastings is an Australian aristocrat who inherited the Scottish title 15th Earl of Loudon in 2012. He is best known internationally because of an unusual historical claim. Some historians have argued that if King Edward IV had actually been illegitimate, then the line of succession would have passed through his brother George Plantagenet. Under that theory, Simon Abney Hastings, not King Charles III, would be the senior hereditary claimant to the English throne. It is important to note this is not the accepted constitutional or legal position. The claim depends on accepting a disputed historical assertion that Edward IV was illegitimate. Most historians regard that claim as unproven. And as Britain's monarchy has long been governed by the established line recognized in law. Interestingly, Simon himself never sought the throne. He has repeatedly expressed loyalty to the British monarchy, supported the late Elizabeth II, and has said he has no intention of asserting any rival claim. In fact, he was invited to participate in Chucky's 2023 coronation, where he carried the great golden spurs, an ancient ceremonial role dating back centuries. He was the only Australian with an official role in the ceremony. So is that what you're referring to? Henry IV. Yep, so that's it. Muhammad Ali was a white man, was he? He just had reverse revitigo. I don't know what that means. Have you ever heard that one crazy long eyebrow hair? Yes, I hate those. And they seem to like, this is like when like for some reason, like around 40, you start growing hair in weird places, and they'll grow like 4 feet in one night. I mean, at least I still have it on my head. I think some people, it just relocates, decides to start growing. But yeah, I'll get the crazy eyebrow hair, and it's just like I'll wake up in the morning and there's like this 2-foot hair, 1 2-foot hair springing out of my eyebrow, or out of my ear, or sometimes out of my nose. And did you know that if you actually, your nose hair, did you know that those are connected to both eyeballs? Because whenever I pluck one out, it's like my eyeballs bashed together. I hate it. It's like, if you really wanted to torture people, plucking nose hairs would be the way to go. CIA forced my Latinx family to be addicted to drinking Coca-Cola. And there's actually, that sounds like conspiratorial craziness at first, but I think there's probably some layer of truth to that. I mean, I don't know about the getting addicted to drinking it, but kind of, we've used, the CIA has gotten involved in South American politics so much. I think it's, I want to say after Venezuela, I think Venezuela would have been number 48 times since Teddy Roosevelt that the CIA or the US government has been involved in overthrowing an existing South American or Latin American government. But I thought, what are you, I thought Latinx, I thought this is one of those things where the actual community I try to listen to, but I heard that we should say Latinx, and then somebody told me not to say Latinx, and it was like actual Hispanic person that told me, no, that you hate that, and it's like, it was written as being gender neutral, but it's like an insult to the Spanish language, and so not to use that. So I don't know where that, I mean, you're entitled to do whatever you want, but that was my impression. Yeah, that's what I was referring to. That would be kind of funny if an Australian claimed the throne. Fornicating ear hair. They drink it more than water because water is less safe to drink. Oh yeah. Where's your family at? When I lived in Brazil, yeah, I think when I lived in Brazil, people drank bottled water, or and that was long before bottled water was like a thing. Like back in the 80s, people had, were fine drinking tap water. Did you know that under the Texas Transportation Code, a physical glass windshield is not a mandatory requirement for a vehicle to be road legal? However, your vehicle does not need to have a mechanism for the window screen. Your does need to have a mechanism. That's kind of funny. I mean, you got Jeeps and stuff. You have some cars that don't, or do you? Convertibles? Do convertibles have? I would just think that if you were driving in a car without a windshield, all those bugs that hit your windshield are going to hit your face. That could be very difficult. But I'm assuming that the reason that you would have this kind of law is either one, people aren't really worried about, the connections, and two, like maybe sometimes the windshield is like removable, like a convertible or something. And did you know that the Texas legislature actually tried to make a law saying that a criminal must give a victim 24 hours notice before they commit a crime? I did not know that. I like looking at like weird laws. I wonder if they have weird laws in the UK. I think you're not allowed to put a horse in a bathtub in New York City. I think that one's still on the books. I actually, one of my short videos, I have a short video on 10 of the weirdest laws that are still on the books. So, all right. And in Arizona, it is illegal for a donkey to sleep. Okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. The donkey in the bathtub in Arizona. Let me check this one. Out. Well, then it's just 2 crimes. I'm just looking this up. Okay, so this is actually not true according to chat. It says this sometimes comes up as a joke. Still don't commit one, though. In Alaska, it is illegal to wake a bear while taking a photo. In California, it is illegal to eat a frog if it dies during a frog jumping competition. Got to respect the competition. Did you know that in the United States of America, it's legal for the president of the United States to form a coup against his own government, as long as he calls it an official duty? In Alabama, it is illegal to drive while blindfolded. Arizona, cutting down someone else's saguaro cactus can result in serious criminal penalties. In Kentucky, this one sounds. In Kentucky, releasing 6 or more balloons within a 24-hour period is prohibited. And that actually, I guess it's intended to reduce litter and protect wildlife. In Minnesota, tires may not be sold if they are coated with grease or other substances to make them appear newer. It's an anti-fraud thing. In Georgia, it is illegal to keep an ice cream cone in your back pockets on Sundays. This sounds absurd, but it originated as an anti-horse theft mechanism. That's kind of, some of these laws, they sound weird until you like find out, oh, there's a reason. So like, I guess horse thieves would walk around with ice cream cones in their back pockets while people were in church. And then the horse would go after the ice cream cone and they'd steal the horses. So that's kind of neat. That's kind of interesting. Learning stuff is cool. All right, so what about... So in the UK, Harry, it is illegal to handle a salmon in suspicious circumstances. The Salmon Act of 1986. It is illegal to handle a salmon when you believe or suspect it has been illegally caught. The phrase "in suspicious circumstances" has made it famous. In the UK, MPs are appointed to a nominal. You can't resign from Parliament. Instead, MPs are appointed to a nominal office of profit under the Crown, such as the Crown Steward and Bailiff of the Chiltern Hundreds, which automatically disqualifies them from Parliament. So they get appointed to this office, which makes them ineligible for Parliament, and then they do that instead of resigning. You can be fired for being drunk and disorderly in public. All right, so Google's AI says pumping your own gas in New Jersey. Boy, this show really, I said it's Freeform Friday. We're talking about whatever you guys want to talk about. So we just went down this weirdo law thing. That's all right. Hi, Sugar. I don't think I said hello to you when you popped on. Google's AI says pumping your own gas in New Jersey is illegal and has been since 1949. Wow. I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that is not a law that gets enforced very much. Lampreys and smelt. According to Section 12 of the Licensing Act of 1872, every person found drunk on any licensed premises shall be liable to a penalty. While rarely enforced unless someone is being rowdy, it means getting thoroughly intoxicated in the exact place designed for drinking is technically against the law. All beached whales, dolphins, and sturgeons belong to the king. Insert RFK Jr. joke here. A 14th century royal statute titled Prerogative Regus declares their animals royal fish if a whale or sturgeon washes ashore on a UK beach. The law dictates it must be legally offered to the reigning monarch first. So many RFK Jr. jokes. You know about RFK Jr., right? He found the beached whale and sawed off its head and drove it home with the kids in the car while whale blood like leaked into the car while they wore plastic bags over their face so it wouldn't get in their mouth. You cannot beat a rug on the street after 8 a.m. Shaking or being a carpet, rug, or mat out in the open through thoroughfare is legal during daylight hours. The only exception is a small doormat, which you're allowed to shake at before 8 a.m. That seems like an oddly specific law that probably had an origin for a reason. City of London bylaw passed in either 1595. This is one thing, like, Americans that have not been to Europe don't realize is, like, just you drive around and you see a castle that's like 1,000 years old, and it's just not even like it's just like there. It's not even like a tourist site or anything. Because history is like, we see a 300-year-old house and it's like, well, that was one of the first houses built in America. I don't know about the whale thing. I knew about the raccoon. Did you guys hear about the drunk raccoon? Uh-oh. Hang on. Did you guys hear about the drunk raccoon? The drunk raccoon that, I guess a raccoon broke into the liquor store, drank until he passed out, and then he like passed out over by the toilet. And pretty funny story. He's okay. I was worried the raccoon died, but it didn't. Apparently, it's illegal to intentionally release more than 10 balloons into the sky in a one-day period in Florida, which makes sense when you start thinking about there's the wildlife and stuff like that, because those things are bad for balloons or for wildlife. So if you like release hundreds or thousands, then like you have a thing and some kind of celebration. Did you ever see the WKRP where they threw the turkeys out of the plane? God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly. Gotta be one of the funniest lines in TV history. I live across the river from New Jersey, full service gas only. It does not get enforced. Yeah, I had a hunch. But I wonder if like you really wanted to bust somebody for something, like you could like wait until he gets out and fills his car and then you arrest him for that. And then you're like, oh, I gotta, I can inspect your car now. And then you go into the car and you find like drugs. And then you bust him for the drugs. That sounds like it might be a fun episode of Law and Order. City of London bylaw bypassed in either 1595 or 1895 made it illegal for a husband to beat his wife between 10 and 7 a.m., 10 p.m. and 7 a.m., or after 9 p.m. because the screaming and noise were keeping the neighbors awake. Wow. We have come a long way in that. New Jersey also charges, and these are like the people that, anyway, I have a feeling the people that are all like, want this household vote thing also believe that beating your wife is a way to keep her in line. New Jersey also charges a beach tag fee on the most public beaches. Yes, you pay for the privilege of walking on sand. Supposedly, it's to pay the lifeguards. Oh, I don't have an issue with that. It's like people paying for the thing they're using. I mean, they're not just using the sand, they're using the whole beach. I don't have a problem with that. I got to get going. Friday obligations. The job after the job. All right, have fun. Peace out. I'll talk to you on Monday. My only question is if the police get called, they were violating the law. Who they arrest? The person beating the wife or the wife making the noise? Yowzers. That's a thought. Or whether the wife deserved it, So I think I'm going to take a cue from Brett here. And I think I'm going to sign off for the weekend. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for participating. And who do you guys play next, Harry? Okay, England World Cup. Oh, you guys play Panama tomorrow. Panama. Anyway, good luck. I think you guys probably should win that game. I think England is probably better than Panama. Who does the U.S. play next? Because I think that the brackets are all set. We play Bosnia and Herzegovina. Well, we should only have to play one team. No, that's just a joke. All right. I'll see you guys later. Have a wonderful weekend. Eat well and sleep well and play well.